What's up, guys? Hope everyone is doing well today. Today I want to talk about going into Game Week 27, who we should be thinking about with transfers, who looked good last week, and what our chip strategies might be moving forward. So on the screen I have the top performers of last week, and as you can see, a couple standouts actually this week. This Semenyo and O'Reilly for Man City, my team, obviously doing the bit, 14 and 13 each. I mean, doing pretty well. 3 bonus for Semenyo. He should be on people's radars. He's still 50% owned, so really not too much of a differential, but if you don't have him, he will hurt your rank, and he is in great form, so I would definitely consider getting him if he's not in your squad at the moment. And then, of course, the top scorer of the week is Van Dijk with 17 points. He grabbed 3 bonus, DEFCON, clean sheet, and a goal. He really does just get those opportunities to score goals every once in a while, and he can go big, which I think is part of his appeal. Liverpool have some good fixtures coming up, so I think that Van Dijk would be a decent option in the defense moving forward as well. Strand Larson, they have Burnley next. I think that he is a good option for that game, but afterward, the fixtures are still pretty good for Crystal Palace, but not as good as Burnley, obviously. And really, Crystal Palace are still kind of on the fritz, so I wouldn't necessarily go there. But he does look pretty good at around 6.2 million, maybe, which is a pretty good price for a second or third striker if you need him. And then Jose Sa, I actually bench boosted and got these 12 points. I'm really happy about that. Obviously, they still play Arsenal on Wednesday, but 10 saves, a clean sheet, and 3 bonus. Doesn't get much better than that. Tyrone Mings for Aston Villa, a clean sheet. He thought he got a goal, but it turned out to just be a FPL assist, and he grabbed the 3 bonus. So a really good outing for him, but could have been more if it had been his goal. I think Aston Villa's defense is still pretty shaky, but if you wanted to go for someone like Matty Cash, it looks like they are kind of keeping clean sheets lately. So could be a decent option moving forward. And then Palmer, obviously. Oh, they play Burnley next week. I apologize. Strand Larson play Wolves. Yeah, I think Palmer is the best captaincy option for next week, but then the fixtures really do turn. So if you have him, captain him. But 12 points, I expect him to do the same thing against Burnley next week. Really good from him. Goal, assist, 3 bonus. He did get a yellow card, but nothing to really worry about there. And then finally, Chow for Newcastle unexpectedly grabbed a goal. DEFCON grabbed a bonus point. They did not keep a clean sheet. I would not expect clean sheets from the Newcastle defense, but yeah, he looked pretty good. Definitely still an option. You don't necessarily have to sell him, but if you do have the money to go to like a Van Dijk or wanted to go down all the way to like a James Hill, maybe that's an option. So yeah, moving forward into the next slide, I have chip strategies that we can use depending on if you've used your wild card or if you haven't, or if you just need ideas about what are good moments to be using these chips. So as you can see, with the wild card available, I would recommend using the double game week in 26 that just passed for your triple captain. Obviously, if you didn't use it, there will be another double that you could use it if you haven't used your bench boost or something like that. Game week 32 does kind of look to be another good fixture swing moment, so using a wild card there does seem to be optimal. Double game week 33, obviously the same as I just said with that triple captain chip. You can use your bench boost there. I think that's a very good option, but obviously not necessary. And then the free hit in the blank game week following that week, which should be most of the teams that you did bring in game week 32 for the double and 33. So yeah, I think that would be a pretty good option. But if you have used your wild card, I think you kind of have to navigate those blank game weeks with just transfers. So as I've kind of put it here, in game week 31, you could either free hit or try to get through with transfers. I would recommend using transfers for that week because 34 should be a much larger blank game week. And then double game week 33, instead of using your bench boost, you could just use your triple captain and probably on a better option than Gabriel of this week. So I think saving it for that week actually has been the better plan in my opinion. And then the blank, if you haven't used your free hit, then use it there. But if you did use your free hit in 31, then you can do transfers and try to just save up for those moments. Really, it's kind of team dependent. Who do you have? Do you have, triple Arsenal, triple City? Then you might need to use a free hit in 31. But if not, then you can just try to get by with transfers and maybe only play 10 or 9 players. It's not the end of the world. And really, double game week 34, or blank game week 34, I think is the best option for the free hit. Moving on to the transfers, Haaland is yellow flagged. Not necessarily a long-term injury, but I do expect him to maybe drop to 14.8 mil, maybe. People are bringing him out because Thiago has a lot of good fixtures coming up. I think that is a pretty decent transfer plan, maybe Ekatike as well. But if Haaland's injury is just for 1 week or not even for 1 week, I don't really think we should get rid of him. He has 5 points, 11 points, and 5 points in the last 3 games. He's kind of getting back into form, and I really think that he is gaining confidence again finally after a long spell of a little bit of doubt. So I think that this is a decent option if you wanted to go for it. I think finding a way to get Thiago in is probably the best course of action because Brentford's fixtures are very good. They play Burnley, Wolves, Leeds, and Brighton, who are pretty terrible right now. I would almost have them be a green fixture. But yeah, so getting Thiago for this week is a good option if you can find another way outside of Haaland. Maybe do that, but if you can't, I don't necessarily think that downgrading Haaland to Thiago is a bad option. I do expect them to kind of stay level on points over the next 5 or 6 games. So saving that 7 mil, 8 mil almost could be worth it. And then obviously upgrading Rice to Verts. Liverpool have some really, really good fixtures. And Rice is kind of just not the offensive threat that he has been all season. I think that he's kind of falling into more of a 6 role, and Zubimendi is actually kind of playing into that 8 a little bit more, and they're kind of reversed as from the beginning of the season. So I would be getting rid of Declan Rice. I know Tottenham is not a bad fixture this week, but he's 7.6 million now, I think, and just doesn't seem worth that price. There are so many good midfielders. Even, like I said, with Brentford, you could go down to Ouattara or Ashada, and they are very good options. And actually, Shada's just had a long rest because of his red card, so he should come back fresh, ready to score goals, and I do expect him to do that. So if you can get rid of Declan Rice, and especially for Game Week 31, avoid that blank, I think that that's a very good option. All right, yeah, and moving into captaincy, as I said before, Cole Palmer is probably the best pick this week. Bruno Fernandes, for me, obviously is kind of just an auto captain. Like, if you forgot to choose this week and left it from last week, I don't think that's a bad option. Everton away is a pretty good fixture. Everton have kind of been shaky at defense, and really, Tarkowski, I used to have him, and now I got rid of him because he's just not getting clean sheets. So I do expect Bruno to get a return against Everton. The fact of the matter is, will he be assisting or getting goals? And I think goals are just more likely with Cole Palmer, and obviously there's a higher ceiling there for him, especially against such a bad side in Burnley. And then obviously we have the Crystal Palace guys, Munoz, Jurgen Strand Larson, Sarr. I don't think any of them are bad options. I put Munoz as the top option here, but I don't expect Wolves to score against Crystal Palace, and I expect Daniel Munoz to kind of have a pretty good day on that right flank. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't necessarily put it on him as my first choice, but he could be a fun differential, and you could expect a clean sheet and possibly some attacking returns there. Then obviously Enzo and Joao Pedro, similar to Palmer, very good options against Burnley. And then Thiago, as I said, Brighton are very shaky at the back right now. They're in really bad form. I think they haven't won a game in like 11 or something like that, so they're in really bad form. And Thiago got a lot of opportunities against Arsenal, and I expect that to continue against Brighton next week. So as of right now, here's my lineup for the week coming up. I have 1.3 million in the bank. I have not yet made a transfer. Before the Arsenal versus Wolves game, I am 121k overall. I did use my bench boost, so I have 70 points this week. So it's looking pretty good. Sanchez in goal, I'm pretty unhappy with, but I'm not going to make a goalkeeper change at the moment, especially against Burnley. And then obviously triple Arsenal, who I will be probably trying to get rid of into 31. And then Haaland, Semenyo, and Nunez as my triple City. I'm not going to be starting Nunez this week because Newcastle, I do think, can still score goals despite the fact that they're not very good defensively. And then, yeah, two Chelsea attackers, Enzo and João Pedro, I think are very good options. Bruno, Sarr, Munoz. I'm very happy with this team. I'm not really expecting a top score, but I am expecting to kind of be competitive this week, compete with, and hopefully maintain rank. Obviously, you never know what will happen, but yeah, pretty happy with the way this is turning out. So I don't think I'll use a transfer. That way I can save it for preparation for blank game week 31, maybe making an injury or something unexpected, like a red card. So better to keep my options open when the time comes for that blank game week. Yeah, and then finally, here's my start bench options. Obviously, Thiago at the top, kind of Dango in that realm, but also the two Liverpool guys, Ekitike and Wirtz, I think are very good options this week. I put the fixtures on the right side of the screen there, so even for me, that's pretty helpful. As you can see, Liverpool do play Nottingham Forest, so Forest do have a new manager, but we don't really know what to expect there, so we'll see. Hopefully, Liverpool can still exploit their relative weakness there. Obviously, Reece James, I think, will start for Chelsea, and I do think that he's just going to be very good against Burnley. And then Crystal Palace guys, LaCroix, Sarr. And then Bowen, I might put a little bit further down. I don't really expect him to have a good day this week against Bournemouth, but he's still Jared Bowen. He still gets goals when he shouldn't, so always a good option. And if you're spending the 7.5 million on him, you're probably going to start him anyways. And then, as I said before, Strand Larson is a pretty good option. I would definitely start him above Rice. As I said, Rice is just not getting those attacking returns anymore, so he's just kind of like a worse Elliot Anderson for 2 million more, which feels pretty bad in owning him. So maybe he might be one of my transfers this week, actually, in hindsight. So bringing in Dango for him, yeah, that could be an option. Then I have Semenyo, James Hill, who I think actually is. These are all pretty good options, but James Hill, I think, is the best of the worst, if that makes sense. You're not really going to expect him to get that assist every week that he got last week, but he will get DEFCON. He can get clean sheets. Bournemouth aren't the strongest defense, but they're definitely not the weakest. Not a bad option there. O'Reilly's been playing in the midfield for City, so he could be getting more attacking returns like he did last week. Perhaps getting more of those 13 pointers, a clean sheet, an assist, a goal, a couple bonus. A lot could go right. So yeah, this list was pretty hard to make. I think this is how I would rank it. I do expect O'Reilly and Man City to concede a goal against Newcastle. That is why he's down further on the list. And then obviously Gahey at the close to the bottom. Calafiori is just a minute's risk. I actually think that he's maybe long-term injured. He got injured in warm-ups on Sunday, so yeah, I think that he could be, I don't know, if you have him, maybe sell this week. And then DCL, I think I would just bench. I think he's a pretty good hold at 6 mil or whatever he costs now. It's not too expensive for a third forward or even a second forward slot. I would just hold DCL, but I wouldn't start him this week. Yeah, so I think that does it for my comments on this week. I really appreciate you listening in and watching this video. Please subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. I really do appreciate that. It helps to grow the channel, obviously, and I'm hoping to reach more people than just my brother and my dad. So let me know what you think, and I hope that you have a great week. Thanks.